Hi, I'm Nathan Carlton from Sample Library Review, and today we'll take a first look at Drumatic Creator by In Session Audio. Super excited about this particular sample library, mostly because I love Taiko Creator and continue to use it in my TV cues. Both products encourage me to forget I'm using Contact. They have gorgeous interfaces that provide just enough controls on each page to keep me focused on the sound and the percussion parts required for my current project, without making me frustrated and trying to look for additional controls to tweak or get under the hood. This library is 2.82 gigabytes installed. It has 40 drums, including rims, and dozens of stick clicks, medals, cymbals, and sound-designed elements, over 16,000 samples. The drum heads are sampled with 7 round-robin variations, each at 7 velocities. And there are MIDI suites with intros, fills, and core variations. There are multiple mic positions and distance controls, ensemble randomization, EQ profiles, and reverbs. It doesn't require the full version of Contact. It can use the Contact Player version 5.71 or higher. There are some advantages to buying it at the $99 intro price. You will get the future expansions. There's also some bundle deals with Taiko Creator at launch here. But the retail price is $139. Out of the box, Drumatic Creator sounds something like this. Want to check out what they sound like without any effects on them. If you go to this menu here, these are all the different kits that come, and when you buy it on intro price, you'll get future kits for free as they get released. There is a pre-mixed kit with, I don't think there's any drums selected into the groups. Let's pick that here. No, they're all set up to be randomized, and you can randomly pick some drums, but the drum kits themselves are empty. But the one that I wanted to use is the unmixed kit, because that has the least amount of effects on the drums. So if we look here, the EQ DNA is off. If you have Taiko Creator, this is a pretty useful feature. The reverb is off. Only the far mic has been loaded. The L stands for load. And if you go into the groups here, the interesting thing I found is they are pitched down for some reason. So I'm just going to pitch those back up. And Unity is not at the tightest setting. It is up a little bit for a little bit of looseness. But other than that, the kits are empty and there are no effects on them. This control over here allows you to unload groups. So you could unload the auxiliary, unload some of these rims and other groups. But we're going to keep them all loaded here. Go to the first group, which is a drums group. Select the first kit, the bass drum, and just see what they sound like. Let's see, it's not that one. It is this octave. So what we're trying to do here, what I wanted to do is just listen to them all without any effects. And you'll notice, again, the pitch has been pitched down. So, got pretty decent pitch controls here. I think it said 7 layers of velocity and 7 round robins at each velocity. So there's going to be a good range here. I'm going to click through these. The kicks maybe are the not super interesting, the bass drums. A lot of us have bass drums. Surdos, and you'll notice that there are 2 keys right next to each other for you to kind of play rolls or do different kind of strokes there. At the very highest velocity, you can hear a little bit of pitch bend kind of happening. Started noticing that a little bit more with the toms. as you hit them louder, they kind of pitch up a bit. Tom 2. That's the loudest. Really cool kind of decay there. Almost feels, you know, like they picked specific drums that would have that kind of pitch bend on the head release. And you can hear different materials here. Each of these toms is a little different. And we're going to go through these pretty quickly, but as we go further through the kit, we're on Tom 9 now, you'll hear that the drums get a little more interesting. Here's a small Tom 12. Number 12. So there's lots of toms. 13. 14. Now we're to the rototoms. This is a tenor tom 1. Tenor tom 2. And you can do a lot of pitch shifting with them. Of course, pan and there's more tuning controls up here, mute and solo. The last of the tenor toms, I think. Oh, nope, there's another one. And another. Forgot how many tenor toms there were. Here we go into frame drums. These are pretty cool. I mean, frame drums are always have an interesting sound. But they picked some good ones. Frame drum 2. Now we're into the snares. The snares, again, are fairly standard, not extraordinary, but there's a wide range of them and they're all recorded really well. I'm going to use the snares as an example of picking different mics. So let's load these other mics. So far we've only been listening to the far mics, not the close or the mid or the room. So let's just listen to the close mics and then mix the other mics in and you can hear some differences. And when we blend them all together, a nice rounded room sound. Let's go through the snares with all of the mics up. So the snares we'll be listening to different from the other mics, other instruments. next group is percussion. So this often means rims. It might go through some of the same. Here's the full list. We start with a lot of rims, and then we move into bamboo, hi-hat, anvil, and trash can, and sticks at the end. So when it says bass drum, we mean we're hitting the rims over here. Again, you get 2 keys, C sharp and D sharp, in this group. And we are having all the mics up, so let's just listen to the close on that one. So that's what it sounds like with just the close mic. I find that the full mic mix is a pretty decent way to listen to all of them. Rototom rims. Frame drum rims. Snare rims. Okay, now we're to sticks. Bamboo. Hi-hats. So we all have hi-hats. I think that it's just nice to have some so that you can do the mic mixes. And you can pitch them nicely. Anvil. Trash can. All of these drums and percussion can be set across all these different groups until we get to auxiliary. Now the auxiliary group starts at C4 and goes all the way through G4, C4 to G sharp 4. In the auxiliary section we find the designed sounds. They go from brush cymbals, edgy atmosphere, metallic atmosphere, deep atmosphere, a couple crashes, a splash, which is kind of designed, trash and china, which are slightly designed, they're not super dry. Some steel hits, distressed, mechanical hits, slams, and booms. Let's take a listen to these. Remember that they can be tuned, but they don't have the same controls as the rest of the drums. What you'd be doing here is you could potentially reverse them, change the sample start, change the attack and release. Change the pitch. And of course, change the panning. Little LFO going on there. We're in the mechanical section. Steel. So you can change the release on these, but you can't change the mic positions or the reverb amount. This is dry reverb. These are just recorded with some of that ambience in there. Deep atmosphere. These approach pads, but they do have kind of a gesture to them. They have beginnings and endings. Metallic atmosphere. These also have a kind of a gesture to them. They have endings, beginnings and endings. There's no infinite looping going on. So you might be tempted to pass these by, but there's a pretty rich collection of sound designed pieces here as well. Edgy atmosphere. Here's the brushed cymbals. These are kind of performances a lot of the time. All right, now this is a crash cymbal, and you can hear it's already not a super dry crash cymbal. Again, we don't have mic choices, so this is exactly the way they're recorded. Slightly designed, very clear aesthetic. Sits in the mix really well. Splash cymbal sounds a little unusual for a splash. It doesn't jump out at you as that kind of dry splash cymbal that a lot of us have. Even the splash cymbal is a little designed, a little unique. Part of the very clear aesthetic here. Easy to mix. It's called a trash cymbal. China. So going through the kits, we've got the All Rise kit at the beginning of the alphabet, and the All Rise kit has, as you can see, a sports theme. Let's get into the MIDI here. We'll use the complete suites, and we'll start with just simple 4/4s, see if there's an All Rise kit here. There is. What I found is you do need to double-click these in order to load them and play them and drag them and drop them into your MIDI. So let's double-click it, which actually also starts playing it. While that's going, I'm going to flip through the EQ DNA to listen to this kit with different EQs. I'll leave the reverb at the wide plate setting, and I'll leave these settings the way they are. I think they change per kit, but they don't necessarily change when you just flip through the EQ DNA options here. You know, and I hear a little bit of distortion as we move through these EQ DNAs. I think that has a lot to do with this drive setting. Let's pick a different kit and choose some different MIDI settings, or different MIDI patterns. This one is called Dominate. Let's find a Dominate pattern here. They're organized by tempo. And this one is at 150, so I'm going to speed up my session to 150. And double-click it to load it. Also notice that it loads different mic positions, but this one has a lot less drive. So when we move through EQ DNA, we'll hear this kit, but we'll hear different EQ settings, and maybe we'll get a little less distortion. So at the beginning, I was flipping through them, and they didn't have as big a change as you might have expected. The mix wasn't turned up all the way. The reverb there was all Watchtower, and we were playing at normal speed. You can change the speed, you can change the velocity of the MIDI. And my experience with the EQ DNA on this instrument, the Drumatic Creator as a whole, is that it doesn't seem to have quite as big a difference as it did on Taiko Creator. That's not a bad thing. There are subtle EQ moves going on, and it doesn't really detract from the instrument as a whole for me. Let's pick a different one, a different kit here. So Dominate, let's see what's next. For the Crown, and we'll just listen to that. 133 is the tempo, so I'll slow my session down to 133. Notice drive is up here. Flip through some EQ DNA. So that was a few different EQ DNA settings. The next kit I'll pick, I'll just flip through some reverb settings. So this is, we've kind of heard Getaway Driver a little bit. Let's move on to Located. This is a little bit more sparse, maybe. Maybe the idea here would be, let's see if there's some other, there's a 5/4 pattern here at 124 BPM. So let's listen to this one here and go through some reverbs. Notice just the mid and room mics are loaded. So we'll see what these different reverbs sound like. There's a lot of reverbs to go through. And one of the other things that we wanted to check out was looking at the different ways that you can mess with the kits once you've created them. So let's start editing these kits. We'll leave the far and room mics loaded. We'll leave the EQ DNA on and the reverb that was picked on. But let's go play with the drums themselves in each of the groups. So we'll find on the loose, let's assume there's a 4/4 there at 108 here. So we'll bring the session down to 108, just so we get that going. And get this happening. soloed one of these drums here. You notice there's a way to, if you look at down here at the info area, when you want to disable all the other solos, you can hold Option or Alt, and you can hold Control or Command for exclusive solos. One thing to mention here is that all of these drums are playing when this group is triggered. So here's C1 and D1. Those are going to be right here. Right. I'm triggering this tom, this bass drum, and this tom, and this rotor tom to all at once when I hit these. It's maybe not perfectly clear. They're all getting mixed together. And the unity controls how much delay there is between each of the hits. You've got an overall pitch relative to all of this. So lots of multiple ways to address the same controls, either as a group. I think this is the whole group, actually. So if I move to a different group, I'm going to get a different pitch value. So different groups can have different group pitches. So lots of ways to customize all of this. And then if you do get to a kit where you like most of it, but you want to adjust some parts of it, you can just hit the randomization here. So let's play the MIDI for planetary flares here. Looks like it's at a tempo of 101. If you don't like these frame drums, you can click Create Group, and it'll change to a different group. With all of these settings. Pick your variables. Pretty cool. Here's a kit called Snow Hides All. This has a default tempo of 92. I'm using the MIDI just so that we can kind of get a good representation for each of the kits. Solo out these toms. You can hear this one's panned way over to the left and tuned way down. playing around with some different mic settings there. And wrapping up some of the kits, we've got the depths. Let's find a MIDI for that. This looks like it's about the same tempo. You can also pick the high drums or just the low drums. I'm picking the full kits here. The range here will push the mics further away. Introduce kind of timing issues because it's introducing some time delays, as I understand. So if you push them all back all the way, it's gonna mess with your timing. The grip. Again, double click to load the MIDI file if you want to drag it out to your DAW. Let's try one of these user kits and just create a kit and see what happens. So this is the pre-mixed user kit. When we go into the groups, I'm going to start with the first one. It auto-selects some drum creation settings. I'm just going to click Create Group and then click Next Group and then create rim set from last played drums. That didn't work. Create group here from the percussion. I guess I have to have actually played drums. Create group and just go through all 17 groups, clicking create like this. So using all of the preset settings, creating all these different groups. And auxiliary looks like it's already been created. Okay, so with that, let's see what we came up with. Only the room is loaded. I think I'm going to load all of them. Turn down the close and the far. A lot of us might look at Drumatic Creator and wonder if we really need another set of toms, kicks, snares, and auxiliary percussion. Of course, the beauty of this instrument goes beyond the samples, but to hear if they are in fact unique, one of the first things I did was turn off all the effects and just click through every single sample at multiple velocities. Turns out there's two things that make them sort of unique. One is that there's a cohesiveness across the package. Even the dry samples aren't always perfectly dry or plain, but this is not a disadvantage considering they sound exceptional and complement my existing sample collections well. I heard what seemed like a few subtly designed elements, even within the straight percussion and drum head tones, and these nuances push this collection beyond just some more drums with a fancy interface into a particular aggregation completely performed and recorded with a defined aesthetic. The second aspect that stands out is the multi-mic recordings, because there's very clear differences between each of the mic perspectives, helping flesh out the creator aspect of these samples. Beyond the samples and the kits, the EQ DNA is perhaps the next most obvious sound control manipulation tool. While it was maybe not quite as effective in my testing as Taiko Creator, it certainly helps with some broad strokes, and building groups and ensembles does take a bit of paging around. There's no master mixer page to see which groups are on solo or mute, as far as I could tell. The reverbs are adequate, but the effect was not as impressive to me for some reason versus Taiko Creator. But the sum of these, plus the kit creation and editing tools and the MIDI files, including the welcomed complete suites, all make this another easy-to-use tool for quick generation of endless drum parts for cinematic and media composers. It's fun to use, sounds fantastic, and it's easy to get quick results. Thanks for checking out the video. We'd love to know what you think about Drumatic Creator. How might you incorporate Drumatic Creator into your music? Comment below and share your thoughts. Please like, share, and subscribe. We always love your support, and be sure to visit samplelibraryreview.com for news, reviews, and our weekly deal compressor.